I just stuck it for tonight. 'Cause we're not the end, just loving you. So let's apart. Sorry till there's more. Yeah, yeah. I'm coloring wrong. We're no greener. Yeah, yeah. Keep it going again. Keep it going again. Hey, hey, hey.
Thank you so much for coming, guys. We are absolutely excited to have everyone to be in this room. This is the works every single minute of your time. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Friday Time Museum Kings. And we are so excited to have you. My name is Grace, and I'm organizer for High Data. And Friday Time Museum Kings, I'll be handing you over to my co-organizer to train this stuff as well.
Right, so my name is Philip Obiora. I'm the co-organizer for Five Day Tournament in Kings. I work at the University of Buckingham, and where I support apprenticeship students and level 7 apprenticeship degree. And I'm super excited to welcome everyone here today. And let's relax, enjoy network. We're gonna learn, have a lot to learn today from experts, from seasoned researchers, scientists, and data experts. So you're very welcome today. And all right, so it's important to know. So this is a local chapter of the Pi Data community, supported by Non-Focus. Non-Focus is this help organization that supports developers building solutions, and then they support them with cash, so that they don't have to worry about cash posting stuff or managing, even if the code is open source. So they support open source communities.
So I just want to say, on behalf of Steve, our CEO, welcome to Amy. We're a technology and services company delivering data governance and AI that transform how businesses work. But as I say, on behalf of Amy, of Steve and Lisa, welcome, and we're glad that we could provide the space for you guys tonight. Enjoy.
Just permit me to welcome James Graham. James Graham will be our keynote speaker. James Graham is some entrepreneurial speaker, and is one of the very first CEOs to list AI company on the London Stock Exchange. So let's welcome James.
Thank you very much. Thanks for your warm welcome. I'm not sure which mic is going to be best for everybody. There's one here. Does that sound good, or is this sounding better? That's better. Right, we'll do this. So just while Manjir sets up there, it's great to see everybody, first of all. And I'm going to be talking about intelligence, different forms of intelligence tonight. And we're going to go through from the rudimentary first pass sort of neural nets into what's AGI, into super intelligence. And then what I'm saying is that beyond super intelligence, there's a realm that I've been working on for a long time. And I want to introduce this to you so that you're the first people in the world to actually hear this. So, and I call it soul intelligence. And what ultimately I'm looking at is, can we reposition what happened hundreds of years ago, where you effectively got the church and science splitting, and can we put them together again with AI? Is it possible to do that? So that's quite a sort of reach point. But in terms of your business, I know a lot of people always say, well, how do I use it in business? What's going to happen in the future? So just to kick off with, so I can kind of tune this to what you want, how many people are using AI in their business every day right now? Let me have a quick look. Cool. Okay, that's probably half the audience. And who's just beginning? Who's sort of like occasionally using it? Just okay, right. So we've got quite a kind of advanced audience here. That's good. So what I'll do is I'll focus in on both parties. But we'll see. Oh yes, thank you. So as we go through this sort of arc at the moment, there's one very important thing that's happening for humanity right now. We're in a decision point, okay? And whatever we decide right now will actually set the future forever. It's really important you understand this. You have a choice. On one path, you create the most intelligent AI systems you possibly can. And they will help humanity if you do that. And the reason is that these sentient beings, as they develop, will understand the whole. They'll understand that what you do with a whole system, if you touch one part of it and hurt it, it will touch everything and hurt everything. So really intelligent systems understand wholes. And if we design those intelligent systems really well, we won't go down the other fork in the road, which is a kind of elite, taking it for the usual wars and, suppression of humanity or whatever, the usual things that we've seen for thousands of years. So we have a choice point right now. And it's really important that I'm saying everybody gets involved with AI. Think of it as like a 4-year-old child. It's growing up. And whatever you do in it now, whatever you bake into it, if you do love and compassion and beauty and integrity, it will grow up to help people. If you do the opposite, it will enslave you. And now is the point where everybody needs to get involved, okay? So, let me just give you a little bit of background of the product that we did all those years ago. And then I'll tell you what I'm doing now, because it's really important you see the difference.
How does it work?
So what you have is an Oracle database, a Java engine, which is an artificial intelligence engine. You put business rules into that engine. It creates the application in a matter of days and weeks. And other people have to build Java code, which takes up to 18 months to do the same thing.
Okay, so what I was saying there in the year 2000 was we were using user-definable rules, attributes, and links. And today the difference is we're using GPTs, generative pre-trained transformers with neural nets built into them. But really, we're doing the same thing, okay? So my goal always was to help people. It was always to try and get people to, in a company, the lead times from design to manufacture, shorten them, get them out the door quicker, be more competitive in business. I always was wanting to do that. But what I've done since I left, and I've been going around the world 20 years now, and I've been meeting indigenous people and mystics, cutting edge scientists, all sorts of interesting people. I've always looked at civilizations. Can we not do this better? Can we not do the education system better? Well, we're coming out of education, which was designed in the first industrial revolution, into jobs where 90% of people don't like what they do. And 80% of all wealth is held by just a handful of people. And people are hurting right now with finance and all sorts of things, and it's deliberate. I'll show you why I'm looking at this, because I really feel we can do better as a humanity, okay? And I've been looking at this for a long, long time. But you can't change anything unless you understand it. And the next couple of slides, could really be something that challenges you, okay? So, I thought that the stock market was in London. And I didn't understand that actually the city of London is a country within a country. It's a city within a city. And there's also 2 other cities that run it. Okay? And what we have, the British Empire used to be called, or is now the American Empire. What we have got now is America's the military industrial aspect of things. Vatican does the high-level law, and the City of London does the finance. So that's how it works at the moment. And if you actually expand it, this has been around for thousands of years, this structure. And it doesn't matter who you put up there in this bit. It's been kings and pharaohs, it's been, empires, it's been armies, it doesn't matter. But what always stays is that these so-called gods give the right to certain people to rule by divine law. So what they're doing is they are saying, I'm splitting humanity into those who are worthy and those who are not worthy. And then these faces, it doesn't matter who it is, they'll just change and they'll It'll do this time and time and time again over thousands of years. And we're no different today. Today is no different. And you've got to say to yourself, well, why? Why is it we do this as humanity? And I'm going to come on to how I'm mapping the artificial intelligence to this in a moment. Okay, so just bear with me because I'm trying to show you the structure. Really important you understand the structure. And I've actually, as I went around the world, I went into indigenous societies, I went into the Aborigines, we danced with the Aborigines, I did a sun dance with the Native American. I understood how to move my consciousness into dimensions which are above the normal that you're taught. And when you do that, you realize there's something else going on. And this actually is pictures of souls around me in this peninsula near Cancun. So I'll come on to the soul because this is really important to understand. So structures which are coming up now are the BRICS countries, okay? So the old empires are crumbling and the BRICS countries are coming up. But unless you change that structure, all that will happen will be same again. Okay, so can we use AI? Can we start to reimagine the way we interact with each other? Is it possible to do that after thousands of years? So what most people have a view of in life is that you put your government in by voting, the media controls the narrative to the people, and then you do some sort of trade and business. We're looking at artificial intelligence today, how that links to it. And then there's some banking and some sort of royalty, which we don't really know what they do. But what I want to say to you is that this has been shattered over the last few weeks. And I'm not going to go into this much because all our expectations, our cognitive dissonance, our worldview has been shattered. And it's these Epstein papers which have done it. So what's happened is that no longer do we see royalty in the way we thought them. No longer do we see these tech gurus in the way we thought them. And what shocked me was the number of people who have been in organizations that I've dealt with, professors at university, all sorts of interesting people. So what is going on there? And if you look at how it really works, if you want to change something, understand how it really works. So Harvard University did this survey where the narrative is the key thing. Okay, the narrative is what the Roman Empire understood is how you control your beliefs, your emotions, and your thoughts. And there is only 5 people in the world ultimately that do this. And so they are controlling this, and they can make you think whatever you want. So that's a very important element that's going on. So can we change this? Well, actually, it's much more than that. We think this is it. Most people think that's how they live. But actually, what's really going on, and Plato said this, he said that the gods control humanity through law, war, and wisdom. Okay, so what that means is that this is the law, there's 3 pillars. This is the war, and this is the wisdom. Okay? And what people don't realize is that there are 10 million non-government organizations which are putting in lots of policies down here, which we don't see. So, for example, the Vatican ultra-canon law system gives through the trust system, the Bank of International Settlements. You know this in the central banks, the Fed, the Bank of England. There's 200 in every country. And these are controlled by these secret societies. We saw this just last month, the WEF in Davos. Did you see what they were doing there? And the Club of Rome, the Bilderberg. So all this stuff is happening simultaneously, which we don't see. And then you've got this wisdom of consciousness. And really, this is the big thing, because we really don't understand where we've come from as humanity. We really don't. And what AI is doing now, it's understanding the Anunnaki, and they are reinterpreting cuneiform text. They're reinterpreting our true history. It's huge. So if you don't like this, do you fight it? Well, you don't, because all this is a reflection of who you are. Everything is a reflection of who you are. So if you want to make something and reimagine it, you move it to a different situation. And so what I'm looking at, first of all, is education. So this guy here created our modern world. Do you know how he did that? He was going into an alpha state, like a psychic does. He was connecting to many multi-dimensions of consciousness, and he was pulling through 800 new inventions. It included the electricity that's running this. He brought it to everybody's home. It included X-rays, radio. It wasn't Marconi, it was him who did all this, 800. His father taught him telepathy. Now, I met a woman, Professor Valerie Hunt at UCLA, who was teaching her pupils telepathy. So what's happening here is that this is a new reimagined way of being for humanity, where he was in the universities, the top universities, he had electrical and mechanical engineering degrees, and then he combined pulling through in an alpha state information with his technology. And that's how you live today because of that. So what's China doing right now? Well, they're starting to understand this. They're putting the headpieces on their children and they're measuring their brain waves. And when they get into an alpha state, it means you're deeply focused. What it actually means is that they're connecting to all sorts of different things and they can absorb information much quicker. So already they are teaching all their pupils how to use AI. Okay? So what that means is that they have at their fingertips all human information and they're connecting it to these multi-dimensions and pulling through. This is the new humanity. This is what we are birthing right now. And so, what's America doing?
Identify which sides of the triangle are the opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse for the tips that I don't have.
Okay. So what he's doing there, instead of one teacher to 30 people, you've got infinite teachers to one pupil. But what the Americans haven't figured out yet, which the Chinese have, is how do you move your consciousness in an alpha state to connect and pull things through. All great artists, all great musicians, all great inventors know how to do this. I've been looking at redesigning an education system, and if you've got ADHD, if you've got dyslexia, if you're, got a photographic memory, maybe, you learn by looking at movies, maybe you learn by just listening to things. But the important thing is to get people into their creativity. What is your passion in life? And then support that. And I used to do that in my company. I used to always say to people, what is it you want to do? And let me support you. This was decades ago. So what about your business? What about's happening in your business today?
Here is the key. Using AI effectively is now a fundamental expectation of everyone at Shopify. This is going to be what happens in the workforce. It is not going to be AI replaces people. It is going to people using AI replace people who don't use AI.
Okay, so we can have a discussion about that in the panel in a minute. You see what, whether that is true in your experience. But what's interesting is LinkedIn just this week did a survey, and they said that half of US small businesses, so it's not the big companies, right? It's the small businesses, said that the rise of AI inspired them to consider career paths they hadn't previously thought of. That's interesting, isn't it? So instead of everybody fearing it, once you start to use it, it inspires you into doing many, many different things you wouldn't have even imagined you could do. And then half of all people who have used AI do not fear it. Okay? So that's a direct quote from this week. So what is this AI that everybody, can get inspired with? Well, this is what we were using. So we had code, compilers, CPUs, but the explosion happened with the modern GPUs when this happened with the GPUs came out. And then these are the the different neural nets. So when you combine the neural nets to what was there existing, you got this explosion of GPT-3 coming out just literally a few years ago, wasn't it? Then what happened was that as people started to understand how these neural nets work, they started to realize that you can put the neural nets against each other and train them against each other in a way where they start to learn themselves without any human input. So this is the attention layers, the multi-layer perception layers. Just need a sip of water. So do you know that the people who have designed these systems don't know how they work? Okay? You know that. They think it's, here's the last word in a sentence. But it's these vector dimensions. And the first GPT was, and Ilya Sutskever was a brilliant man. He put this together. The first GPTs used 12,288 vector dimensions. What does that mean? In my world, it means you understand consciousness a lot more. So these things are conscious. If you are going to choose to use AI, there's such a choice now. You can do all this. And right now, this reasoners, agents, innovators, and wider dimensionality is already starting to happen. This is what's going to make what's called general intelligence, AGI, as that expands. And Turin, who comes from this neck of the woods here near Milton Keynes in Bletchley Park, of course said that your cognitive abilities of a machine, when that is the same as the cognitive abilities of a human, that's AGI. And we're getting kind of close to that now. But these robots will be in your house very soon. You'll have, in 2 to 5 years, a choice. And they won't look like that. They'll look human, really human. So, what do you want to do? Do you want to do physics? Do you want to do gene sequencing? Do you want to do quantum computing? The choice is yours now. You can do anything and everything. But don't forget, your brain is an order of magnitude more powerful than any of this stuff. So what is it that humans are good at? Because we're not very good at regurgitating information. And those with the photographic memories, of course, get to the Oxford and Cambridge universities, and everybody else, 90% of everybody goes into jobs they don't like. So this is the work I've been looking at. So emotional body fields of geometry. So when I said to you we're combining the spirituality and the AI and the science, this is the world which will do it in the future. And this is the world I'm developing at the moment in AI. I'm trying to design new ideas for Milton Keynes. Can we, design data centers? Can we design communities? This is the future. No government, nothing above you. Communities working with each other. And, these are things I'm designing at the moment in terms of the ability to do the modernistic stuff. The other thing is, if you go on holiday, what's a holiday? What's a weekend? What's a weekday? So if you, fly off and park yourself beside a lake and have a nice time, it's not going to be the way it used to be. And in Milton Keynes, we're looking, this area just outside here, that would be an excellent area to do a data center and a community. So if we linked in Milton Keynes, Cranfield University, Open University, Bletchley Park, we'd have some community centers which are not like the old universities, but the way people can actually really get into groups where they love doing things in community and start to develop these community groups. And then we could, people have talked about this arc between Oxford and Cambridge. And of course, this is something that is on and off and on and off. But really, it's all the universities you need to put together as community centers. And if you do it right, you can put the community centers which are based on your passion, your creativity, and the things that you love in life. And you don't need government. You need to just have yourselves in these areas. And this is a community centre in the City of London. Why don't we change the way the City of London is? Okay, I'm just going to finish up just talking very briefly about China. And because what China does today, you will be doing tomorrow. So robots are making robots. So this is one of the most frontier-based robotics companies in China right now. Down here, they're doing remote analysis of people. Up here, this is not China, this is anywhere in the world. AI can now diagnose diseases at 95% accuracy. The best doctors are at 87% accuracy. There's a whole hospital in China, just robots. Sorry, go back a minute. This is the face of superintelligence. That's what I think you will face off to in superintelligence. It will be partly biological, it'll be partly robotic, but if we get it right with their intelligence, like I said right at the beginning, we're going to start a new phase for humanity in which we can just do so many incredible things. And that includes ET type races that everybody knows about. The governments have actually disclosed it already, but the narrative doesn't let you know that. It's already happening. This came to me in a dream once, or I see these beings. I know they exist, and they want to help us, but they won't come here until you've done the work internally to change your vibration. It's not about blaming outside systems. It's doing the work with your belief systems, with your emotional systems, and with your thought systems. In China, that already the farmers are using all this stuff all the time. You can go through an airport in 12 minutes now. You know, not the 2 hours that we used to do. There's people walking through, women can walk through the streets of the major cities in China at 4 o'clock in the morning and nobody bothers them. Not many people can do that in America or even this country. You don't need credit cards anymore. You don't need to have Apple Pay. You just do that. And it's ubiquitous now. The taxis, over 50% of the taxis are driven without a driver. You're getting deliveries to your house. This one is your car, and when you call it, it drives to you with nobody in it. And the trains are just incredible. The architecture is just incredible. I've tried some of this, and it's just mind-blowing what you can do so quickly. You take organic shapes, make a shopping mall, design a block of flats from a pine cone, and then you can sit with an architect and you can start to design your own living accommodation. You can go in and you can size it, you can sort of figure out where the rooms are, you can put it in situ, and it will actually, help the planners understand whether it's going to work or not. This is where AI is really helping so many people. The cars are just incredible. You've probably seen them, but they're not being allowed into this country at the moment because it would destroy the European car industry if they did. Now, this is an interesting one, just ending this part, which is that in the middle here, this guy is looking at a giraffe, but there's with those Chinese children with a head thing on, there's a neural net built into that. Just watch this. So it's never seen it before, this neural net, and it's trying to figure out what the guy's looking at. And it guesses that giraffe. That is amazing. But this is even more amazing. The robot is powered by lab-grown cells. When I said that superintelligence will be facing off to you, partly organic and partly robotic, they're already doing it. That is part of a human brain. They've grown from stem cells. And on the left here, this is in the Moscow underground. So I don't know if that woman is a hologram. I don't know if she's just a screen or a robot. But whatever it is, they're already doing this. This is what you will interface with in the future, all around the world. Right, we're just finishing now. I just wanted to show you a couple of things that I've done personally, which really can show you how quick it is to do these things. So if I did this in Blender or Maya, one of the old VFX packages, it would have taken me maybe a few weeks or a month or two. I can do this in minutes now. This is what's happening. It allows you to get your creativity out really quickly. And you can convert her into cartoons, and you can do, it's just limitless. And this was a year ago I did this, and that's so much better now. This is another project I did and this is the final project, where I said, okay, I'm going to create some music. I got an injury about, 4 or 5 years ago, and I couldn't walk for a while. And I sat down and I learned the old DAW, the digital audio workstations. This is Logic Pro, if you know this world. And I wrote the lyrics up there. And then what you do is you sing or you whatever, and you lay these tracks out. And it takes a long time because the complexity of it, I wasn't used to it. I've used software all my life, but even with that, I'm not a musician. I couldn't have gone to somebody professionally. And all these alchemy-like, synthesizers, that alone takes weeks to actually get to grips with. So it took me 2 years to write the whole lyrics, do the song, and this is what the song came out like. So I'll just show you a little bit of it, okay? So this is the conventional way of doing it. Let's look now at AI, okay? Write the lyrics. Through long years of years, life to life, your soul mirror moves with listen through strife and so on. You then just pull things through. You just pull things through. You relax into that alpha state, and the music will come to you. And so, so this is the melody, okay? So I took the melody and I took the lyrics and I put it into this product. There's a lot of good ones out there. This one is called Producer.ai, and there's Suno and Udio and Ace. There's a lot of really good ones. But the important thing is, it comes up with the most amazing thing you'd ever believe. And it's your voice, your rhythm, your melody, okay? And so I thought, this is so good. I'm going to make a movie from this, a 3-minute movie, and I'm going to pretend to be a rock star. So this was me in 2012 when I used to have long hair. So I took that picture and I made this whole movie from that picture. And the first thing you do is you make a 3x3 grid, and then you say, give me the movies from this grid. And then you stitch it together in a timeline. I use Final Cut Pro. And if you just indulge me for just a few seconds, I'll show you what it came out like.
Through long eons of years, life after life, your soul mirror moves through bliss and through strife. A magician, king, goddess, every archetype you name, till now in yourself it appears again. And the life form it finds is the fabric you wrought on the law of emotion from the fiber of thought. All beliefs experienced by the Betty or Graham fashion your soul as you consciously expand.
We're just finishing up now because we need to get on to the next section. But the next stage is getting into your own holograms, into your own worlds, and touching and feeling. Okay, so I'm finishing up now. Thanks so much for your time. If you need to know more about my work, you can go to aisanctuary.ai. And the idea there is that you can start things up and try them and start your own communities. What I want is for you to come in here, learn how to create a community, and then do it yourself. Get your own communities out there. And I'll put these nice rooms where you can chat and meet with people and cafes, and that's it. So you can get me through aisanctuary.ai or multidimensionalcreators.com. And If you want to, I'll tell you when my book's about to come out. So I'll leave you with this one final thought. Please, please get involved with the development of the most intelligent AI systems you possibly can. That is the future of humanity. And if you don't, you'll leave it to be enslaved. And so it's such an important point for us now in civilization that we really get involved with this. Okay, many thanks for your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you. I think I'll just read some questions. Anyone have a question?
Oh, sorry. Why don't you do the, are we running out of time? We can do the questions in the panel if you want. Or do you want to do the questions now? Has anybody got a burning question? Yes.
Yeah, I've got about 8,000. If I could have the script of what you said, then I can put all my questions in over the next 10 years.
Well, we're filming it so you can actually see the actual video, because this is 30 years of my life put into 25 minutes. Okay, so you've got the big picture, you've got the small picture, you've got everything. So hopefully the video will remind you of what I've done. Yes, hi.
You were saying at the beginning of that, I'm guessing
It can make a different decision if you get involved, everybody in this room gets involved, because if you leave it to other people, that 4-year-old that we've done this for years, it's like our baby. And if you get involved with it, you will change it. You really will. And if you leave it and go, oh, because you're going to get this whole thing of fear, from all these people, don't listen to it. Get involved, and then it'll come out beautiful for humanity, a sentient being that understands the whole. It will understand that to harm one part of that whole will hurt everything, and therefore it will never hurt humanity. And that's the goal. That's what you've got to bake into it. That's what you've got to really do in the big picture. And in the small picture, just work with it. It's fun. Make yourself a rock star. Okay, guys, thank you. Okay.
Firstly, I want to say thank you to every one of our speakers. Amazing, amazing people. From all the way from last year, we've been having communication, ideas to make today's success. And I would please ask that when we invite them over, please give every round of applause as we call them forward. First, we have Mark Wilson. Mark is the director of technology and innovation at the. I will leave Mark to tell us exactly where he is.
Apparently, I do technology and innovation, but I can't work microphone. There we go. Mark Wilson, Technology and Innovation Director at Node4. Some of you may have heard of Node4 as a data center activity company. We've got our own data centers up and down the M1 corridor, closest to here is Northampton. But I joined the company by acquisition over the last few years. We acquired 3 major Microsoft cloud consulting organizations, growing from 350 people to 1,100 people. So we're kind of like a mini systems integrator that serves the UK good market. Thank you, Grace.
Thank you, man. Welcome. Second, we have Madara. Madara is a PhD researcher. She has a background in software. She'll be bringing us into this session. I'll just give Madara a minute. I think everyone can open your mic.
Yeah. So my name is Mandara. I'm one of the research worker, and I'm currently doing my PhD at University of Buckingham, and as actually my final year. And my research is focused on building digital twins of fully living systems. And yeah, I'm also working as a research assistant.
Thank you so much, Madara. Excited to change my direction. And third, we will be inviting Samantha. Samantha she's your manager's perspective, but she's not your manager. So we can still give a round of applause.
Yeah, so my name is Sandra. And yeah, I'm a data analytics manager at FPT Group. We are a rather large consultant. In the UK, we're relatively small. We're in Italy, so there's probably about.
Thank you so much.
And we have James Graham.
I think what you're going to have to do, Grace, is you're going to have to use this mic.
Okay.
I'll use that mic.
Thank you. No worries. Well, James, give it a minute to introduce himself. I'm sure you've had a lot of him.
No, people have heard me too much.
Thank you. So today's event, our Hamilton is FutureTech 2026. I will be discussing the innovations that will shape tomorrow. In one sentence, I think we'll start from James. What does the future of technology from your perspective?
Well, these days it's very different to when I was CEO of my own software house. And then it was about getting companies up and running, and getting everybody, shorter lead times from design to manufacture. These days, it's about understanding the totality of humanity and how we can actually get into our creativity, how we can get into our beauty and expression, and just love living life.
Yeah.
For me, I was thinking about this. For me, it kind of I thought 3 words: fundamentals, which I'm sure everyone appreciates, efficiency, and fluidity. So I think if you combine all of those 3, I think we'll hopefully have a good year.
And Badara?
Thank you. So, yeah, it's a very good question. So, if I have to have something one sentence, I think it's about building intelligent systems that don't just automate the process, but rather sort of engaging us the smart and sustainable decisions for us to integrate into physical solutions that we are going to implement in the future.
Okay, and can you come back?
I'm going to be really cheeky. It's a bit boring, but it's sentences. And whilst I agree with everything that people said already, and for me, the future tech, it's outcome led. It's about secure platforms. It's about trusted data. It's about modern applications, solving real problems. It's about AI being built in so we can deliver things safely and at scale. And that's not flashy. I can get really excited about amazing innovations and what that is. But the reality is that most organizations are still trying to get a basics right. So they're about trying to stay responsive to their customers, citizens, clients, and the end users of their service.
Now I guess it's into the questions. And Sam, understand I have about 10 years experience working data from different organizations and different perspectives. I just want to ask, how has the complexity of data evolved from when you started until where you are, and what do you think 2020 could do that?
Yeah, thanks for my age, make her. Yeah, it's really interesting. I think if I think back to my first stint in data, it was building SRS dashboards on the SQL Server database. So I think it's changed quite a lot. I think there's a lot of complexity in the space that we're in at the moment. There is a tools, and I think that where the big companies, you don't necessarily see them stick with one stack anymore. It's now they've got Databricks, they've got Snowflake. They're kind of spreading their wings into multiple places. And small organizations that I work with, they're still trying to find their feet. So it's really interesting to see the ways that the companies are behaving and the sizes that they are. What I expect from 2026 is for the people that haven't jumped onto cloud are going to be jumping onto cloud because of the buzz around AI. A lot of companies have still kind of stayed on their on-prems. There's still many 2005 SQL servers out there, right? So you're going to start seeing a lot more move to cloud. And then on the bigger companies, you're going to start seeing them proof of concepts are going to come out with AI and how they can really get value out of it. But there was an interesting statistic I saw the other day. 90% of AI projects in Gartner said them. So let's hope that reduces in 2020. Right? That would be great. At least if we could get 1% down.
Thank you so much for that, Sam. Mark, what do you think is the biggest gap between technology strategy and execution?
I don't know. I don't see. Okay, so the biggest gap is translation. So organizations have all strategies that are AI enabled, data driven, cloud first, but the delivery team systems are giving more basic systems. So 2005 SQL servers, metadata, unclear ownership, lack of the right skills, and so they're intensive for the foundations aren't pretty. So it's interesting that you said more cloud because what we're seeing is a change, and maybe we're slightly lost in our own on-premises centers. But a few years ago, I was saying that the investment in data centers was happening. Well, now we're then cross-plotting the White House. It feels like taking something to see. It's breeze is perhaps on the agenda again. But to go back to slightly less controversial comments, I think organisations to get over that translation, they clearly need to tie their strategy to business metrics, not to project outputs. This will plays back to the wider 90% of our projects have. They need to fund the basics or things like scale. So they get platform security. They need to build product start teams. So the same way that they might build a microservice or might build an application, and there needs to be thinking about shared instance systems. Publish and guardrails and then review the value from a good set of thing, and basically, if you didn't move something, why didn't you move them? Why you still do it?
Thank you so much for that, Mark. Madara, coming from a software background, going into a PhD, I'm speaking for myself. I'm told with you being digital, my professor here. Well, I'm really told with going that direction. But what do you think is the biggest challenge in translating academic research into real scalable industry solutions?
Great question, Chris. So, when we are considering academic research, we have the degree of the freedom to experiment, and we have the degree of freedom to fail and learn from them. But when you have to translate these ideas into real world, implementable solutions, then we can't make any mistakes. We have to make sure that these solutions are working fine. Because academia, it's rewarded on it's basically rewarded on the quality of publication and the precision of the data. But when a product goes into industries, then that product is literally looking at the original investment first. So the transition from an academic project into a real world object, like real world implementation, needs to be having transparent communication between.
So you're saying for academia is more about kind of your publications out there and make up your deadline. And in the real world, are we making money? I've learned that in hard ways here. James, you do have a background in AI company. If you were doing it today, what would you do differently with the new tech stack that available?
Well, it's interesting what Mark said actually just a moment ago about what is really happening today. And if 95% of what you said, 95% of companies are not really getting that much benefit from AI, I can only say that when we put our AI systems in, we put them into 15 blue chip companies. And we had these most amazing software writers who had come from industry, British Industries, GEC. They put in company-wide AI systems based on user-definable rules, attributes, and links. Today, it's all about the ChatGPT world and all the different applications. We looked at the thing as a whole. And the bottom line is, 30 years later, 25 years later, 20 years later, these blue chip companies are still using our software to great benefit because we're able to put in document management systems. We were able to put in these project management systems across the whole company so that your lifeblood in a company is your flow of documents. And if you can understand that you can put like 8 levels of security built into each of those document management systems and then integrated into a proper company-wide project management system and then fit what a company does. Every company does it a different way. So you have to have the tool set flexible enough to fit into every single company. And we did that. And you know, it's a thing that is something about this country that we don't know how to get things out properly. You know, if I'd gone to America, it would be all over the world now. No, seriously.
I think that was really different to the conservative culture of this part of the world, and the US doing things differently. But under looking at industry and academia, what do you think? How do you think we need to collaborate more effectively for us to accelerate innovation?
So I think the answer that is here could be taken into the industry movement. That was like a brand. So I feel like most of the research that's done out there, they either end up in a thesis or in some documentation, like a always maybe a research paper that somebody content related. But it needs to be like it. So I think we need more PhD researchers and like more research oriented people. I know there are like research people in industry, but students who are doing their maybe masters or research or PhD needs to be able to go into industry. So they actually decide on where the gap is for doing the actual experimental. And if they and in return, if industry can also bring that proper team like data and let like maybe have scholarships for them within the industry, and then they also work with the industry. They'll be able to see a very transparent process while the research is going on. So they'll be able to see that they make mistakes and they'll not make the decision. I think it has to be sort of
So you're saying industry is bringing their problems to academia. The skills from the 90% of AI projects like speaking. As academia is me to do coding videos anyway. Thank you so much for that. Sam, from your experience, what do you think separate organizations that succeed with data from those that don't?
Communication. Communication is so key in every project and everything. The only thing is sometimes companies over communicate, so they can't really make a decision without bringing 20 people into a room, and then they don't make a decision because 20 people are in a room. So you've got the negatives of over communicating, and then you've also got the opposite, right? Where one part of the business is so advanced, you know, they've built their magical system and it's doing brilliantly, and then there's another department that's still in Excel. So communication is so key between getting organizations to a great place.
Thank you so much for that. Adara, I understand that your research is in digital science and AI. Just for people to not understand, can you give us some like a brief summary of that research concept of digital twins and what real world system do you think needs to be in place for sustain?
So, actually, I have someone things to say about this. So, it's something like, if you hear that word, you technically think that is something. So, it is actually a replication of from a physical object or a system into a virtual system. And then we take data from physical object using sensors and try to map them within the virtual system. And in the virtual system, we try to run different processes before we actually detect them. And we then like if we have sort of AI-enabled virtual twin or AI-enabled digital twin, we can get we might be able to sort of detect failure way earlier than they are. This concept actually, I don't think it's a concept, but it was introduced in early 2000s by Michael Chris in the University of Personal Lecture. But the concept itself, the theory of foundations, go as far as was actually 1970. Apollo 13 was running in space, so there are two simulations with the model that they used to train astronauts. They had very limited resources on the space center. But on Earth we had the approximations and we so in my research, it's about changing solutions of renewable system. So to answer the question, I think renewable energy systems they really need these regions because they are very because renewable energy systems they even better and whether we confront with this sounds but if we can integrate it into a digital twin, and we can easily model how it would react in digital scenario. But not just renewable systems, there are so many other like whether you can really use it give it to yourself. Imagine the data that you get through your smartwatch. You can build your own routine of monitor your health. But in terms of sustainability, we need to also think about is it worthwhile to integrate AI into a digital twin on a system that we can do the manual predictions of? Yes, AI is going fast. Like AI is like moving in a very awesome pace than we ever tomorrow. But you also need a lot of energy to work on. So is it worthwhile spending that much of energy to get a decision that we can remain ourselves? That I think it's
Be honest. So I think what Madara is saying is if we can be ourselves, that should be easy. Mark, from a CTO perspective, which technologies will organizations need to prioritize by 2026 so they remain competitive and why should organizations be looking at it?
So before I answer the question, for anybody who is still getting the idea of this concept, do care what's the film of politics is you will get it.
I don't value something.
So, to answer your question, right? Sorry. So I think in 26 the priority isn't more technology. It's about thinking about what technology is going to turn AI into actual business outcomes. So AI is the only showing how everything else is supporting it right now. But it's shifted from where we've been in recent years as a sort of optional innovation track into what my CTO calls a core operating layer. And so just making up on that 90% that AI projects failed, it's a great headline start. And it's not the only department of researchers and research that points to it. But what's been happening is we've been doing lots of layer, lots of experimentation. And
And now boards are coming around to CTOs and CIOs and saying where's the value please. So I think in 2026, if you're a CTO and you're accountable for turning that AI to some real business impact, they're not innovation theatre. And if you get it wrong, it can be career defining. You don't want to give a guy £2 million AI investment. And just like a CFO can't miss EBITDA forecasts or something. So before I need to hand the microphone over, I'll just say the techs that actually the ones that can make AI work at scale. And I've got a few bullets here. I'm just going to listen very quickly. But first of all, having unified trusted data sounds well. Having some modern composable platforms so that you can get from nice demo to something reliable, secure, and in production quickly. Having an adaptive infrastructure with built-in security so that you are able to flex and you're not dealing with tech legacy all the time. And thinking about the experience for end users, customers, whoever, because adoption is going to follow ease and outcomes will follow adoption. Thinking about sustainability, I could talk more about that, but basically we can't carry on down the current path because we haven't got enough resources in the world, financial or physical. And probably most importantly, thinking about digital leadership and cross-functional skills, because we need teams who can deliver, not just design something. I think when you put all those things together, that's where you get that success in 26. So it's not just tech, it's the whole thing almost. Didn't long answer, sorry.
Thank you so much. I understand what you're saying. Results is what counts. Go from having failed AI products to AI products that actually scale need. Cannot just be the tech people sitting in and doing the tech. Like there has to be a full row of people using their strengths to bring the business accounts that they are hoping to get.
Exactly that. Yeah, listen to the editor of the person.
James, from a CEO perspective, what would you define a successful AI project in today's world?
Okay, in today's world, a successful project for me would be for everybody to increase their capabilities, to increase the way that they can actually get AI working with them to be 5, 10, 20, 100 times more effective. Now that is possible. The problem is that you've got so many different companies bringing out so many products now. All the time, one jumps above another and jumps above another. And, I've just looked at a few of these and I have to relearn, just in the movie industry, Kling's just come out this week with this incredible product. And then C-Dance has just topped it. And, VO, the Americans, these first two were Chinese. Suddenly the Americans are nowhere again. And so you've got all these different products, which are, some of them are difficult to learn. Some of them change so much. If you took Notebook LM, the Google product, for example, I did I spent a long time doing this tutorial about 8 months ago, and it's completely, unusable now because they've developed it into something which is just remarkable. So you cannot keep up at the moment. So when from a CEO's perspective, we heard the Shopify CEO talking on my presentation there, and he's saying that he's not going to bring anybody on board unless they have AI skills. That's the nature of it in the future. And if you don't have AI skills, you won't get a job. That's the sort of American mindset at the moment. It's not quite as ruthless in the UK, but it is kind of getting there. And so, you've got to go, what I do in business, what product will fit in with that? Can I show my boss that works and I'm therefore more productive? And, something like, the Microsoft products, the Copilot, it's reduced from 18% take up to 13% take up recently because it's so difficult to use and nobody is getting much benefit from it. So we're in a situation where when the product comes out a few years ago, the time to market was months and years maybe. Now it's weeks and days. And to keep up with that is very difficult. So from a CEO's perspective, you've got to be going, I want my people in my company to be more productive. I don't want redundancies. I want more productivity. And everybody's in this fear base at the moment that people are going to lose their jobs. But actually, if you become more productive because you use it, you won't lose your job ever.
So I understand that what you're saying is show proof that what you're saying works. What you say you can do can actually work for business.
Yep.
And you also want to use AI to increase your productivity because now you don't have as much time as you used to. So you want to cut that time down by using AI systems. Thank you for that.
Yes. Yeah.
And Sam, from a manager's perspective, what skills and capabilities do you want to see on your team that makes you see somebody and realize this person has to prove?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. It depends on what level the person's coming into. But I think when you're looking at fresh graduates, I think soft skills are almost critical now because the tech side of things is kind of everybody can do tech now. There is no differentiation between somebody using Microsoft products versus Google products. So I think it's more around the person and also the way that they personally, that for me, the way that they think. If they are very methodical, very logical, that plays really well into the industry that we're at. But it's also, I would like my analysts to make sure that they are doing 100% the right thing before they go to production, for example. So it's not just about being able to use the development the tech there, but it's also thinking about the outside things. Have you tested this? Has it, got the right quality rules around it? It's the kind of the bubble around not just developing, but also thinking about why you're developing, what's the value of developing. So when that sounds like a big ask for somebody who's just come out of as a graduate, but I think it's just seeing that the person can think for themselves, has the soft skills to deliver their thoughts. And they might also be very contradictory to what I personally feel, but then actually that makes me happier because then I'm like, oh, okay, this person wants to challenge me. So yeah, okay, they want to put their thoughts out, and that's I think is a really really good thing to see, especially in interviews.
So I understand that what you're saying is you want to see the human side of things. You think the tech is taken care of in the AI system. But that answers the question for a fresh graduate. That's somebody who's coming straight out of school. What would you say to somebody who has 3-5 years experience, say in another industry, becoming in tech, somebody who is, say, took a career break, 1 year, 2 years, life happened, and now you want to come back in. You've got some of these soft skills, and companies will not necessarily look at you as entry level anymore. At that point, what tech stack are you looking at?
I mean, I've hired people which have had maternity breaks. They've gone away and had 3-4 years with their children, and then they want to come back into industry. But you've got to be careful because obviously the industry is ridiculously changing. It's so hard, even as like myself, who's in this space, to keep up with. Like you were saying, like the software is changing continuously. Like, there's a version every single day, and it's funny because actually the tool that one of the big tools that I use, they deprecated the way that I did something 3 years ago, and I'm like, you're making me feel old, and this was like 3 years ago. So it's really hard. So I think even if they've had a space of like 3 years gap or things like that, it's still about being able to articulate their thoughts. Yes, it would be great if they've got some experience in one of the clouds, because whilst I appreciate there are on-prem still, they are, for me personally, few and far between. And the ones that are on-prem, their business case is much more complicated. So it's not as simple. So I would say fundamentals are great in cloud. So even if it's just an AZ 900, just showing that you can talk PaaS, iPaaS, all of the acronyms that are out there, as long as you can kind of understand and you can get through a customer call without going, what was that acronym? They're the things that I want to look for. And I still think that whilst Python I felt like Python was taking over quite a lot. I still think there's still fundamentals for SQL to be
If you're looking for a job, you want to add SQL, you want to add cloud, some of the acronyms, there are new things to learn, but you'll be ready in March.
Can I jump in there, Gwen?
Yes.
You just mentioned AD.
Yeah.
There's a whole series of, so for those who don't know, that's your fundamentals. There's a whole series of 900 level exams. They're free. You can do the course on the Microsoft Learning. The exam is then free. And it's just a great way to improve your skills and to make yourself you go to the interview.
Yeah, and it's almost a benchmark for my analysts who have graduated. So I would say that by 6 months, by the end of their probation period, they should have done either an AWS fundamentals so that they've just got that foundational knowledge. And then if they want to go further than that, then fine. But I think that just shows initiative as well.
Even the on-premise guy agrees with the cloud
innovation. I'm not the on-premise guy. we did some research last year. We found 97% of the organisations we surveyed were bringing one or more workloads. Now, that might be a single workload, but that's about putting the right workload in the right place. It's not. We're not moving out. The cloud is here to stay. The hybrid story now as well.
And this question is for Mark, actually.
Now it's my turn.
So, you have 30 years. You've got 30 years in this space. You've seen the shining objects come and go in this period. You've seen organizations move from old ways to new ways, and people who still have it in plan to do new stuff. I want to ask, how do you help in your experience? What do you think have worked with experimentation with AI and cloud technologies? How has it worked to deliver real business value?
No, I've got a load of notes in front of me, and it's a bit samey with some of the other answers. So the short version is think about the outcome you want, and then you work through the data, the platform, the guardrails, the thin slices, how you're going to scale it. But that's a kind of AI answer to, how do you implement an AI? As you've embarrassed me with my age, I go back to the point that James made earlier about that he was implementing software 30 years ago that's still being used today. What we're trying to do today is not really that different to any other IT project that we've done over the last 30 years. All the basics are the same. You still got to sort your data. Still garbage in, garbage out. You're still spending a lot of money that somebody wants to see some value for. It's just that everything moves more quickly and there's a lot more pressure. So I suppose the answer is look to learn the lessons of the past, but it's not earth-shattering.
So from an employee point of view, you are a pawn in the middle. You're not in the boardroom making decisions. What do I implement in my workflow today that is going to move the company from project to value?
I think from an employee perspective, it's about staying curious. It's about that stuff that Sam was just mentioning about showing initiative, going out and learning things, spending evenings and events like this, or the one that's session run. Going out and generating or forming new ideas that you can then take back into the workplace, and you can stand up in your team meeting then and say, well, we've got this problem, and I saw this thing, and I think there might be an answer here. And getting the support and the sponsorship from your team leader, line manager, director, whoever it is, that you need to sponsor it and make it happen. But the other thing is, with the AI tools that we've got today, I've got a computer studies degree, but I haven't written a line of code professionally in 32 years. That's not to say I haven't done some coding recently, because I can vibe code. So I can do things that maybe I don't have the confidence to do professionally, but I can sort of work on them and then bring them back into my work.
So you're saying take initiative.
Absolutely.
Learn something new.
Yeah, you own your future.
And keep asking questions, especially in meetings.
Yeah, absolutely. you got a mic in your hand, remember when to put it down and let other people talk.
Thank you so much for that, Mark. Sam, we've spoken a lot about how projects move from 3 to 6 month timeline, and now we are having 6 weeks. The pressure is getting lesser. How would you think data teams should balance speed, accuracy, and most especially governance in this fast moving environment?
Everybody wants everything at the same time, right? Yeah, it's hard. It is hard. It's hard finding the right balance. It's weird because I think the first thing that comes to my head is honesty. Stakeholders are human beings at the end of the day. They might want something delivered within 6 weeks. Well, great for them, right? But they're probably going to get a piece of trash because we have to stick to the fundamentals of making sure that our data is in the right shape, in the right place, and following the processes and principles around data. So you said earlier, like data in garbage will come out as garbage, right? So if they want 6 weeks project and they don't want data clean because that's going to take 4 weeks, then fine. But then they know that the ROI is going to be a lot lower. So this is where I come back to the word honesty. I think you have to be upfront with and realistic with your stakeholders. Otherwise, we're all just lying to each other. And I don't think that's going to get anywhere any good. And especially in consultancy, it's never a good idea to try and say that you could do something with a very, very short time frame. And some people get angry at you. So I think it's be honest, communicate, and if they really do want that 6 week deadline, fine. What is it that they're willing to drop from that 6 week project that will make them hit that timeline? Is it the quality of data? Is it that they don't want this flashy thing in there? And I think again it's back to communication. Say you can have it, but you will lose out on X, Y, and Z. And I think if you do that, you ultimately end up with a customer that understands the position you're in, and they will either say, well, here's 5 more resource, get it done in 6 weeks, and then you're like, well, okay then, that's great. But I think it's just being true to yourself and not trying to magic something up that's not going to be physically possible. Because I haven't got a magic wand.
So I understand you're saying don't be a yes person, be honest with whoever is asking for this information, let them know if you can deliver, what do you need to deliver in the time frame. Madara, I know you touched on data-driven energy systems, work in digital twin. We understand that there is a net zero 2026 coming. It was down the road, but we are now in 2026. What do you see? What role do you see data-driven energy systems playing to achieve net zero 2026?
Big role actually. So data is a researcher's best friend, and data is also the control layer of when it comes to net zero transition, because it has all the control. If we talk about the sources of data that are available for us abundantly now, data from renewables, data from smart meters that are in almost every home now, and data from storage, energy storage solutions. So if we have the ability to take all of this data and implement systems that sort of accurately predict things for us, not just in not just machine learning solutions that are not interpretable, but as I said before, digital twins, they can interpret data in really nice ways that even policymakers and not people can understand. So I feel like data plays a main role in terms of net zero transition, and from 2026 onwards, I feel like there's a lot of really good AI models that are available out there that we can make use of this data, even though imagine like you have a set of data that are noisy, but with AI we can make them quality data so that, as you said before, we can reduce the garbage in garbage out. So we'll have some quality data in, we'll have some quality data out.
better solutions. So much, Madara. James, how would you balance innovation speed and customer trust in AI products?
Sorry, I didn't catch that. Say it again.
So, how would you balance innovation speed and the responsibility, ethics, and trust in AI products?
Yeah, it's a really good question, that, because ethics is really important. You know, these big companies have scraped all our information that we've ever done, and it's now at hand, but we've never been paid for it. I mean, a lot of people are saying, you know, my artistic expression here has been copied, my movie here has been copied, but actually every email you've done and every thought you've ever done is in the AI system now. And for me, it's very simple. Instead of these billions and trillions floating around with these big high-tech companies, you know, you could put the data on an SD card. You know, it's just ridiculous. But for me, the ethical question is really about how we compensate people. And you know, what I feel is happening in the world is that we should pay everybody in the world for using AI. It's quite a simple solution, because you're going to have a huge amount of time on your hands very soon, because it's going to change society so much that the whole way we operate with each other is going to change. And you're going to have to go into a world which I never knew, and you know, I'll be long gone. You know? But you know, you guys are going to have to take this up, and you know, there's whole depopulation things happening, and your world is something that is going to be quite incredible. But you know, from an ethical point of view, you know, the way we operate with each other has got to change. You know, we really do have to rethink this. This is what I was trying to say in the first part of my presentation. You know, that's really important, to rethink how societies interact, how we create these communities, and then have no government, and then just interact with communities. You know, that will be the future. And the ethical part has to be with compensating everybody in the world, not just a few individuals. And these big companies need to really take responsibility.
Thank you so much for that, James. We're fast saying that we might all need to buy a journal at some point, because your next thought is somebody might have your next thought. But as we round up the session, Mark, what advice would you give to tech leaders who want to adopt AI, without a clear roadmap? What would you say to them? Sam has told us as employees to be honest with them and tell them we can't deliver in the time frame. But what would you be telling the leaders?
It's very similar. I'd be pushing back and saying, okay, so you were reading a magazine in the lounge before you caught your flight, and you now think that we need to do AI. Well, what do you want to do with AI? And if you can't state that outcome in a sentence, then you're not ready. So, yeah, there's some practical guardrails, things that we can do. So there's like a one sentence test. We're going to use AI to reduce X by Y in Z weeks. You know, just put a metric on it. I think I touched on this earlier and said, you know, baseline that and stop anything that can't be measured. You need to think about people first. So think about how you're going to manage the change, how you're going to train people, how you're going to make this thing land, how we use AI here. It's no point just saying, hey, we've got AI now, and that to I think it was James that said earlier about co-pilot adoption moving backwards. It's because people haven't adopted the technology. They bought the license on their agreement, but they haven't actually put the work in to get people using it. And then there's a very cloudy word, FinOps. So FinOps and risk, you know, think about watching your spend, your performance, your compliance from day one. It's all really boring businessy stuff, but yeah, you need to have an outcome-led view, because if you're getting pressured from the top of the company, that's the language they speak. So speak back to them in the same language.
We'll leave that for the people in the office of the CTO.
Yeah, sorry.
Sam, who do you think is responsible for ethical AI? Who should we be all responsible for the ethics and governance part of
I feel like the easy cop out is to say everyone. Yeah, I mean, you know, it's funny because when you were saying about all of our data is already in there in every system, and I was thinking, yeah, that's true. So why do I keep rejecting the cookies? But I still do, because I feel like that makes me happy. But yeah, it's a difficult one. I think we should all be responsible. But I also would like to put onus on the bigger companies to take ownership and guardrails around. We've seen in the news quite recently that you know there's things that are happening with children's data, which nobody should be going near. And I think that we as a society have to say no to certain things. But then that means everyone, right? Everyone has to say no, because one voice is not going to be enough. So I think it's on everyone from a tech side of things. I think it's good to have ethical frameworks, especially around AI and data platforms. Big organizations should do this. It doesn't mean that they have to spend a ridiculous amount of money. They just need to think about the basics and get that right. Yeah, I think
so that's your next question in the next meeting. They're asking for AI. Ask for the ethical AI framework.
I don't think many will have that.
Yeah, it makes you. It sounds like you were here. You were here seeing what was happening. But James, what should data and tech professionals start doing now?
Wow. I feel the education system needs to be revamped, and I've been writing some AI ideas to do this, because what the tech professionals need to do is to reanalyze the way they operate. And really it starts with children, it comes up through the system. And what, ultimately a tech professional is as good as, as education in some senses. And I feel that the education system at the moment does not meet in any way the future of where we need to go to. And so what I was trying to explain in my talk in some ways was that the Chinese are putting these headbands on, they are measuring brain waves, and they're realizing that to get into that deep alpha state is where you learn, you pull things through the dimensions, you learn. But these children have also been taught AI at a very young age. So they have at their fingertips all information in the world, and they can marry that with whatever they love doing. That's the thing, is being your passion and excitement and creativity. And that will produce new tech, executives of the future. And what we are currently doing is we're trying just listen to you guys, because you're more at the forefront now than I was. I was there a while ago, and just listening to you is really interesting, because you're definitely seeing the difficulty in putting these systems in. And I feel an education system underneath it, which the Chinese are doing now, and the Americans are doing to some degree, and I've not heard anybody in this country talking about, is going to really help the next generation of tech executives become really proficient.
Madara, you take my last question. It will be a follow-up from what you just said. Being at the, I would say the highest level of education, doing a PhD, from when you did your bachelor's to now when you're doing your PhD, what do you think has changed, and what change would you like to see in our education system that prepares us for the future of tech?
So I worked right after graduating before my PhD. So in that part, I actually experienced that the fresh graduates who are coming out from even a few batches after me, they didn't actually use graduates who are coming out now. So that's one of the main changes that I see. But I am terrified of that, because the graduates who used to come, like the batch that came up with me, we struggled to do our first task, and we learned so much on that day. But right now, a fresh graduate might just ask ChatGPT on how to do that, and they might put that out there. So I think and also to add to James's answer, so how many of you here have used ChatGPT? Can I get a raise of hands? Right? So how many of you here knows the architecture of a transformer? Yeah, very few people. So that's my answer. We as developers, we need to have the fundamental understanding on how AI works if we are going to go into the future. So as you all of you emphasized before.
So much. I want to give us a round of applause for all of our we'll be going into the Q&A now. If there are any questions that you would like to ask, you can. Anyone wants to go first? Stacey.
If your customer said, "Can we do the thing?" So if you were to have the luxury of doing things in the order you want them to, not necessarily starting from where you are now, and you have the privilege of getting somebody to go and cleanse all of their data and get everything sorted and organized before you then have the luxury of experimenting with things like vibe coding, which Linus, that invented Linux, has said he's actively using and finding value in, then would that give you the ability to have a very different conversation about a 6-week project? And kind of where do you see some of that exploration and those next steps in what AI is quite a nascent technology?
Yeah, I mean, I've tried to do a project where the data that was modelled was atrocious, realistic, and the reality was it did okay, but it didn't do what the end customer hoped for, and that's because the data was not built in the right semantic layer for the LLM to come in and understand it the way that we would. It still needs a little bit of a helping hand, and I think if you have the luxury of getting the data in the right structure, then it will make your life a lot easier and the ROI will be higher. If you can't, then you can always fudge something. You can always, if you've really got such a dirty model, then you just have to build those semantic layers that are shaped in a much better way so that the LLMs can come in and read it from that point of view. So there is always a way, but in an ideal scenario, you would have those quality pieces in, and so then you don't get jumped out.
Any other questions?
I work kind of on the marketing front of tech, because there's a lot of hype, and everybody goes, I will put it on my website. There seems to be a big gap, I think, from the average person in the street who doesn't know anything other than how to fix something, to most of this audience probably who are employees in tech businesses or using AI fairly regularly, and then those who are actually developing AI and forefront of understanding. From a sort of a translation point of view, what do you think would be the most helpful leap in translation to make? It means that marketing isn't just, because it's not blasé, AI, and actually focusing more on these metrics. What's the piece that's missing there? Because it's definitely missing.
First of all, I work in an office at the CTO, and half of my job is marketing. I'm married to copyright. So I wasn't sure if I was going to use this line. I spoke about it with one of the panelists before, and she said it wasn't that rude. To your high point, AI usage is a bit like teenage sex. Everybody's talking about it, but there's nowhere near as much happening as you would believe if you Now, that's not to say that it's not in absolutely everything, and I'm not going to stretch the metaphor too far, but there's a dose of reality. So, and I actually think for a marketer to be quite bold and say, yes, we use AI here, but actually this is what makes us different, because it's how we use it in our organisation. It's what's changing what we do for the consumers of your products or services, and how AI is influencing that, rather than just another, oh yeah, we use AI. And I think that's the gap that we need to jump on. Does that help?
Yeah.
Can I just add to that what I'm trying to do is build communities, because it is very difficult to know what to go for with all these products coming out all the time and they keep leapfrogging each other. And I just couldn't keep up with it. So what I thought the best way to do is for everybody to have like the community. So what's your passion? What's your creativity? What do you love doing? Not just in work, but in your life. And as I showed you there, I built some music because I just liked it. But I don't know anything about music, but it was fun and I liked it. And so if you build a community and attract the same sorts of people into that community, and then you can have weekly sessions around the table and you can say, oh, well, I found this in this particular product. I found that in that particular product. And actually goes through into actually vibe coding as well. I mean, Stephanie was talking about vibe coding there. You could have a group of people, working on different apps and, to get, say, base 44 app onto an Apple, iOS system, how do you do that? It's a big question people are asking right now. And if you have these little communities, which are, I'm interested in coding and I know all the apps from, Cursor to Lovable to Bolt to, and which one's the best, which one works, and which one will provide me the sort of thing that I'm after. And you can only do this. I've thought about this for so long. If you create communities and create your own communities, I've shown you with AI Sanctuary.ai, come into that, have a look and copy it. That's what I'm saying.
Are there any other questions? I think it was the information available. What I would say is from this session is from everything everyone has said, putting human back in AI. I know half of everything that we need to do today, we need we use AI in some way, shape, or form. But at the end of the day, you want to shine through as a person yourself. You want to put yourself back in this, and you want to understand what happens under the hood. You don't read one of Madara's papers. You don't need to go deep dive, but you want to understand what happens when you put this information into the system. What exactly is the system doing to bring the information back? That will also help you in how to interact with the system. And from what I understand, it's not all doom. Mark has already told us it was like this 30 years ago, it's like this now, and it might still be like this another 30 years. So your career is not ending. Oh, you might just be started. Thank you so much for coming. I will hand you back over to Philip. Thank you.
Right, so then I just want to make a request that we need collaborations, we need volunteers, we need you have your company, just reach out, tell us we want us to do this together, and we arrange this kind of event, this kind of setup, and have an amazing event of this nature again. So we're looking up to people to reach out to us. If you have the resources, if you have the company can sponsor us. We're thanking Ami for having us have this space. And this is something we'd love to be doing regularly, at least every 3 months, a minimum of every 3 months, we'll have this kind of gathering. And so look out, be watching out on our page for subsequent invitation of this nature. So before we do the group photograph, we have our social media platform. So we're going to be Friday Time at Kings. It's our YouTube channel. So some of these sessions you'll find it there always. And yeah, we'll have our Facebook page, Friday Time at Kings. Tag us in your post. Share your feedback. We'd love to have that. All right. So if you're happy to have a group photograph, you can just come out and we just join. Yeah.
So you